afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming to my presentation on my project of change on our admission procedure. Currently, how our admission procedure works, a discharge planner from whichever hospital it may be, whether it's local or out of town, sends information on the patient to one of our social workers. And then our social worker holds an admission meeting in the facility with our administrator, our DON, our assistant DON, anybody who works in the therapy department, somebody comes from there, and they decide then if they are able to meet the needs for that patient and are able to, provide what they need, and they come, and then we let our social worker then goes back and gets in contact with the discharge planner at whichever facility it may have been and lets them know whether we accept them or if we don't, and the reasons if we don't. And what normally happens is on the day of admission, if they're coming on the day of admission, the discharge planner from the hospital will send over a discharge summary to one of our nurses here, and usually that comes within about an hour before. If we're lucky, it'll come sooner, but normally about an hour before our the patient arrives. Well, then that gives the nurse only 1 hour to put orders in the computer. So, and then at that time they remain inactive until the patient arrives. So when the patient arrives, you can switch them to active. Okay, but then you got to think that our pharmacy is located 2 hours away. It takes them 2 hours to get our meds here, and unless we do have an Omnicell and to get any emergency meds out, which does not always have all the meds we need, or if we're able to get a hold of a local pharmacy such as Walgreens or Rite Aid to get things from backup. Otherwise, we have to stat meds that are not available if they're IV meds or anything like that we have to get straight from the pharmacy. Well, if they need a dose within an hour of them being here, it'll be at least 2 to 3 hours by the time they process them and get them here. That patient is waiting. So once the discharge planner has sent the discharge summary, a nurse usually then from the hospital will call our nurse and give a report. Usually a lot of pertinent information is left out at this point. If one of our nurses even asks if they have a wound, for some reason it is being, no, their skin's fine, or we're not told that they were on a CPAP machine at home or a BiPAP machine at home, or if they've had behavior issues, or being confused or combative. These things are all things that are being left out and that are pertinent to us because they may have only been with them for 4 or 5 days. They're going to be with us for 4 or 5 weeks, and we have to have these things under control. So, I propose that our the discharge planner at the hospital, still needs to send that information to our social worker, and then we still have our admission meeting with all the same people, but then we need to send a nurse liaison to the hospital so they can go assess the patient and assess their skin, what treatments they're getting, their behaviors, know what medication, kind of medications are. If there's anything that we're going to have to make sure that we don't carry in stock or be able to get locally, that we can get from, that we can have in-house before they get here. That way they're not having to wait on meds. And then once that nurse liaison comes back into the facility, hold another admissions meeting so that that nurse can report her findings, to everybody in that meeting. Then our social worker can then let them know whether or not we're going to accept the patient. Then also the discharge planner at the hospital needs to make sure that they are sending a discharge summary at least 3 hours prior to the patient arriving to our facility. That way, then this will ensure enough time for orders to be put in the computer and to be ordered from the pharmacy and be in the facility by the time the patient arrives. But in order for this to happen, we're going to have to be able to work hand in hand with the pharmacy to be able to make these orders, especially the medication orders, active instead of inactive before they arrive, so that they're able to be on their way, they're being processed, we can get them pulled out, get them ready, get them from Walgreens, Rite Aid, whichever pharmacy we may have to. You know, and once we're able to be able to put them active instead of inactive, you know, and that lets the pharmacy know that we need them on their part, because it's automatically sent to the computer and they can see it and get those things ready. You know, some of the benefits to this new procedure, you know, our facility will know if we're equipped to take care of that patient before they're, you know, before they come. There's several times, like if, you know, if a patient needs to have a wound vac before they get here, then we need to make sure that we have all the supplies here, you know, before they get here. You know, and sending that nurse liaison to the hospital would just, you know, we would benefit a lot from that, knowing that, knowing what kind of treatments, if they have, whether it be a stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3, you know, pressure ulcer, you know, we're going to know about that before they get here. If, you know, and if we're don't have the stuff in-house, at least, you know, we can let them know, hey, we can't accept them today, but we can tomorrow or the next day, because we have to get this equipment shipped here. Our nurses will know what behaviors to expect and be prepared for. You know, if there's someone who's confused and keep getting up and have alarms, well, maybe we have a bed that's close to the nurse's station instead of the other end of the hall, and we can put them there instead of all the way down at the other end. You know, where we can keep, you know, a closer eye on them and be right there and watching their every move. Patients will not have to wait for medications. If they're in pain, if they're, you know, an IV medication's coming due, a blood pressure medications, they will already be here when they walk through the door. They will not have to wait for treatments. I mean, most of the time, simple dressings, yes, we do have. But if it's something, you know, that's not used a whole lot, and that doctor at, you know, Ruby Memorial is wanting, you know, that brought here, well then, and we don't carry it, well, it might take us 24 to 48 hours to get it here. So that way, that's here. You know, and once we get all this into play, you know, we live in a small town. With great satisfaction, the patient will spread good things about this, and then, you know, it'll keep our admission rate up. People will be wanting to come here. Maybe they'll be asking to come here instead of going to another facility. You know, and you know, everybody, it's a win-win situation. I mean, you have everything here. If you have everything here and you're ready to go, you know, the patient's satisfied. You know, you're able to provide a good quality of care, and then, you know, hopefully the word gets out that, you know, we're doing such a great job here, and we can get more admissions. All right, thank you guys. If you have any questions, you can see me after.